Hi everybody and welcome to the WSET Explorer Wine Rules Georgia. My name's Caitlin. I work at WSET and I help look after our course providers in the EMEA region, and I'm delighted to be here today with Shalva. I will quickly do an introduction to WSET and also Shalva before we get going. So, the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, WSET, is the world's leading provider of qualifications and courses in wines, spirits, beer and sake. WSET has over 50 years' experience in designing and delivering education to help both wine professionals and enthusiasts. And you can take WSET qualifications in over 70 countries through a network of more than 800 course providers. So, if you're interested in finding out more, then please visit our website at wsetglobal.com to find your nearest provider. Just to let you know that this webinar will be recorded and it's going to be available to watch via the WSET Global Events Hub on YouTube. And if you've got any questions throughout the session, then please pop these in the Q&A box and we'll try and cover as many as possible at the end. As I said, I'm delighted to introduce Shalva Khetsuriani, who is the CEO of Khetsuriani Winery and director of Riedel, Georgia. Shalva's family were successful winemakers, but during the country's communist period, the family winery was appropriated by the government. Imbued with his grandmother's family stories, around 25 years ago, Shalva began rebuilding his family winery. He would then go on to found the first sommelier school in Georgia and was one of the drivers in setting up the Georgian Sommelier Association, who is now a full-time member of the International Association as well. These ventures are but a few of many, all demonstrating Shalva's love for Georgian wine. He recognises that the region of the Caucasus is a melting pot of so many gastronomic. I'll get that right. Gastronomic, ethnographic.
It's a lunchtime, Kathleen. You know,
it is. And cultural traditions. And Shalva feels many of these are underrepresented in the wine world, and it's his aim to change that. So before I mess up any more words, I'll hand over to Shalva to start this fantastic webinar. Over to you, Shalva.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And hi, everybody. First of all, thank you to WSET Global for this amazing wine qualification. And we are really very happy to be partner of your great company in Georgia. Thank you very much for this. So, hi to everybody. My name is Shalva Khetsuriani, as Kathleen pronounced exactly the correct way. Thank you, Kathleen, for this. I'm a winemaker the last 26 years. And I'm also behind of the founding of Georgian Sommelier Association 21 years ago. And our association is a member of big sommelier family, International Sommelier Association, ASI. Also, I'm running the Sommelier and Wine School in Georgia here, and we are the partner of WSET. And we provide also the sommelier programs. And from this year, we are going to start the special course about the Georgian wines. It's a Georgian wine scholar with the different levels for the local students and wine lovers, and also for the foreigners. And my family is a partner of a Riedel family in Georgia. It's especially also the big proud of for me and my family. So today I'm going to speak about my country, and maybe, of course, it's impossible to complete, the all things, of course, and maybe this presentation will be just like an introduction to the country, maybe, especially for the people who will touch first time the Georgian wines and some information about the country. I will try to help you to touch and feel what is the Georgian wine culture, because the wine for my country is not just a gastronomical product. It's not just a liquid. This is a part of the part of the culture, and you can find wine and some cultural evidences of the wine everywhere, absolutely everywhere, from the religion, from the churches, and to the everyday social behavior of the people. And I want to say a special thanks to our great partners here in Georgia. It's a national wine agency and Georgian National Tourism Administration, which are support our activities to the field of popularization of Georgian wines abroad. And let's go. Of course, I have to start, and I want to start from the history, because not because the history is only one what is important for the Georgian wine, not because of this, but maybe some of you know that according to last international scientific research, Georgia was nominated as a country where wine was born, and it was the 8,000 years ago. So this is a, by the way, this is a small part of our, the slide is directly from our wine movie. We did it together with famous Georgian female film director, Miss Nana Georgiadze. She was a laureate of the Cannes Festival and Oscar nominated. And we made a movie, Prime Meridian of Wine, and you can find in my presentation a couple of slides from this movie. So around 8,000 years ago, wine was born in the modern territory of Georgia. And this big group of scientists from the different countries, they are found the first evidences of the wine. So this is the first, maybe one of the important things when you want to try to understand what is a country, because everything in my country related with wine and especially with history. You know, you can find different cultures and different, important things in different cultures. So in Georgian culture, not only wine, but history also and heritage is very important of understanding our mentality. It's my favorite slide. It's a Dergi, the great guy, Mr. Mindya Jalabadze, who is a scientist, and they found the really earliest evidence of the wine is the bottom of this great vessel. We call it Dergi in Georgia, and yes, one of the facts, one of the most important artifacts of the Georgian wine history, and also what is most important thing, that territory of modern Georgia, why the people, this modern territory, why is known as a birthplace of wine? Because of course, because of results of this big scientific research, and also that probably the south part of Georgia was a place where grape was domesticated. As this domestication is a super important thing, you know, that you see the shape of the grape seeds are, this is a, this is a shape between the wild and cultural vine. So because of this, because of earliest and eldest grape seeds was found in Georgia, because of this, scientists said that and they recognize our country as the best source of wine. Of course, culture of wine was not only just evidences and artifacts, but of course we have everything related with wine, and we have ourselves and our own Dionys and Bacchus, and you can see the very nice sculpture, by the way, which is shown our mentality also. You see, this sculpture was found more than, the age of this sculpture is more than 2,000 years. And this sculpture, show the real Georgian mentality. What I mean, first of all, Georgians, as many other cultures, of course, we were praying for the fertility and also the good vintage. And because the importance of the fertility, of course, was very, very high. And also the importance of the good vintage, because the wine was a great part of Georgian culture. And also it was a part because wine was like a doping for our warriors ages ago. and because of it was very, very important. And why this sculpture shows a little bit the Georgian mentality, because in one hand you can see the horn, because we meet our friends with a horn with wine, and in another hand, unfortunately, it's broken. It's a sword, and we meet our enemies with a sword. So these two things, wine because of friends, and sword because of battle with the enemies, you can find today, by the way, in the Tbilisi, capital of the country, the most important, biggest sculpture of the mother Georgia. You can see is absolutely the same concept. The history of wine and the first and earliest notes from the literature or from the myth and different epochs, and especially the Greek myth you can find from the myth of Argonauts, when around 15th century BC, of course it's a legend, it's a myth, but it was really written so nice. And in the modern Georgia, you can find so many related things with this myth that maybe it was true. Nobody knows, of course. And this myth was the Greek expedition was leading by the Jason. He came to the modern territory of Georgia. It was the ancient state, Kolkhes, and he explored the country. His aim was to find the golden fleece. And this is a very nice story, because in the nowadays in Georgia, in the mountains called the region Svaneti, you can somewhere in some villages, you can find the local guys, Svanetians, who are trying today to find the pieces of gold, small pieces of gold in the mountain rivers. So in the Greek poems, the myth of Argonauts was so great, described the Georgian wine culture in that time, that some scientists also think that maybe it was a real story about the Georgian wine also. Baptizing of Georgia was a great step to the developing of the wine culture also, because in the early 4th century, Georgia was baptized by Saint Nino. This young lady. She came from the modern territory of Turkey, but it was a territory of Greece at that time, and Cappadocia, the region. And she baptized the Georgia, and she select the beans, the roots of the beans, to create the Christian cross. And you can see that our cross has a little bit special shape because of, you see that it's made by the vine roots. Why? Because she realized, she found it that for Georgians, wine was a very sacral plant. So because of, she wanted to be more close with Georgian people, and because of, she decided to make the cross with the wine. Why Gelati Academy? Not because I'm from this region, I mean the western part of Georgia where Gelati is situated, but you can imagine that in the 20th century in the Georgia was created two academies with a different religious, of course, topics, but not only religious, but viticulture and winemaking also. And Gelati and Bikalta monasteries were places where not only the monks, but also the farmers and sometimes foreigners, they were educated with viticulture and winemaking. So this wine education was started at around 900 years ago. It's very, very important also. What is a Tamada? And what is our gastronomic behavior? What is a feast for Georgians? This is a real, little bit different gastronomic behavior. Maybe usually Europeans and other cultures usually know. But for us, the feast and the toast are very, very important. And Tamada is a guy who is ruling the feast. He's a toast maker, he's the main important person. But our tradition means that it does not matter how many people are around the table, how many people are participants of the feast, 2 or 200, and sometimes Georgian weddings, by the way, are 500 and sometimes 1,000 people. Can imagine, because we are a South people, and the people are very warm, and relations between the relatives and friends are really very, very strong and very, very warm. And these human relationships in this country are very, very important. So what is a Georgian feast? Georgian feast is, first of all, usually we select the most authoritative or most influential, if you want, person to be Tamada. Yes. And second, toasts. We have as minimum 6 obligatory, absolutely necessary toasts. First of all, it's a toast to peace and to the God. In the one toast, somewhere in Georgia, we have a different regions, and I will speak about this a little bit later. Now, second toast is to parents. Third is to brothers, sisters, relatives, and families. Fourth, to people who pass away, who died. Fifth, people like continuing after the death, because after the death we believe that life is continuing, of course. And toast to the kids, like a symbol of the life. And sixth toast is to Georgia. These are the 6 absolutely necessary toasts. And all these toasts has to be pronounced by everybody, all participants of the feast. Why? Because really, these toasts are our values. And usually we love to speak about these values, And of course, they are maybe a little bit basic, but Georgians believe that we have to speak about it. We have to share our just simple human warmth between each other. And because of in Georgia, when you will visit us, please keep in mind that pay attention to the toast. And I really recommend you to learn a little bit about the toast and our Georgian traditional feasts, because of not just because of speaking and etc., but because of this tradition, how people can share with each other this absolutely simple human warmth. So, some facts about the country. The country is very small. We are on the Black Sea side, and between Russia, Turkey, and our neighbors are Armenia, Azerbaijan. We have a different historical regions. Most of them produce wine. And I want to speak about the most important of them, Kakheti. Pronunciation of some Georgian words are a little bit maybe difficult, but French wine words also are not very easy, but people today pronounce very, very easily. So Kakheti is like our Bordeaux, our most important region. It's more than 65% of the wine production is really situated in Kakheti. The climate is continental. It's a hot, of course, it's a very dry subtropical climate. And now we understand that the global warming is really sometimes is a problem. But if you find for example, the northern exposition for the vineyards, now it helps, really helps. Main grape variety in Kakheti, the synonym of this region is Saperavi. But of course, please keep in mind that not only Saperavi, because we have many, many different varieties of grape, more than 525 local endemic grape varieties are described by our scientists. And near the Tbilisi, you can find absolutely amazing great vineyard where our scientists collect the most of them, more than 570 of these grape varieties. But most important in Kakheti, of course, is the Saperavi. In the whites, most important are Katsipeli, Kahurimtsolane, Kisi, and Khihri. But also we have, of course, in other varieties. Appellation system. We have the same appellation systems, and I call it DAD because it's DAD means Datsuli Adlutsarmoshobis Dasachelebaz. I have to pronounce it, but more easy. It's like your PDO or AOP now. In previous times, AOC in France. And what it means that we are very geographical people. From my childhood, I remember that my grandmother, usually she tried to find any gastronomical products from some special appellations. Informal, of course, appellations that in that time is the Soviet Union. I mean, now I mean not only the wine and not wine, but cheese or potato or cabbage, everything, because we are very geographical people in gastronomy, and everybody of us, not everybody, but most of us try to find the taste from different regions or sub-regions. And of course, it helped us more than one. First appellation in Georgia was created in 1886, and it was Tsinandali and then Mukuzani. So it shows that the tradition of this wine thinking way, that people try to find not just alcohol or liquid with alcohol, but taste and some differences in this taste. This is very important. Here you can find all most important Kakhetian appellations like Tsinandali, Mukuzani, Kings Marauli, Manavia, Hashemi, Mujani, Vazisubani, Teliani, Kardenachi, Kakheti. This is the name of the region and the biggest appellation in the same borders. Unfortunately, we have just 45 minutes, so I cannot speak about all of them, but they are very different. Some of them are white, some of them are red, some of them are Qvevri appellation, and a little bit later I will speak about this, of course. The map of the Kakheti we divide to the different parts. In the center, you can see Alazani River, and Alazani divide to Kakheti to the outer and inner Kakheti. Outer Kakheti is near the Tbilisi. You can see here the Sagarejo, and inner Kakheti the biggest part. And in the left bank of the Alazani Valley, we call it Garmamkhare. This is a south exposition of the big Caucasus. It's a very hot climate and amazing appellations, producing some of them the semi-sweet red wines. And the right bank, we call it Garmamkhare, produce also semi-sweet, but of course mostly dry wine. One important thing that Georgian people like dry wines. 99% of our people, we use dry wines. But unfortunately, Soviet period gave us this reputation of semi-sweet wine producers because of it was a big Soviet market and Russian market, and the Russians and the Soviet people, they liked the semi-sweet wines, and Georgia, of course, offered this. But Georgians are we ourselves. We like and drink only the dry wines. White, red, does not matter. And of course, amber or Qvevri wines. We have an amazing small sub-region called it Qvevri. Qvevri is a very small region. You can see here Kardenachi. This is a region where the Kardenachi, Tibani. Tibani is only one, not only one now, but in the previous time it was only one appellation from 1936, where the Qvevri wines were officially established as a Qvevri wine appellation. So Kakheti is a very different. Unfortunately, this 45 minutes it's not enough for explain. Usually in our school, we are going to teach the Georgian wine scholar 2 or 3 weeks only the Kakheti appellation. So it's a big story. Kartli is a center of Georgia, is a heart of Georgia, is a title sub-ethnos. By the way, we have more than 10 different sub-ethnoses and 4 different languages. Can you imagine? Different Georgian languages. Main mother language is Georgian, but also we have Svanetian language, Svan language, Megrelian language, and Januri, Lazuri, and these people now lives mostly in the territory of modern Turkey. But usually everybody, all of us, all Georgians, all sub-ethnicities know the mother language, Georgian, but we have also the different, very different regional, differences. It's very interesting. Such a small country, 4 languages, more than 10 different sub-ethnicities. Population is less than 4 million people. Different subclimates, microclimates, of course, but also the mesoclimates. So different, so many grape varieties. And so big difference between the gastronomic traditions also. And when I will speak about the Qvevri, I try to a little bit explain. I have to check the time because we have just 45 minutes. So most important red varieties here is Shalva Khetsuriani and white varieties, Qvevri and Churi, but please keep in mind that we have many, many other. And our appellations, Ateni, Ogami, Asuretu Ishala, and Bolnisi. And you can see here the map of the Kartli. You can see here that is the center, the heart of our country. Kartli and Kakheti are eastern part of Georgia, and now we go to the west. Really, differences between the climate also are very interesting because eastern part of Georgia is a dry subtropical climate, and the western part is humid, wet subtropical climate. And Imereti, in the heart of not just the western part of Georgia, but sometimes we call that is a gastronomical capital of Georgia. And the mother gastronomy came from here, from Imereti. And not because I'm from here, and the capital of Emirati is Kutaisi, amazing city. By the way, many air flights from the more than 15 European cities has a direct flights to the Kutaisi, and this low cost are Wizz Air, and very, very easy, just 3 or 3.5 hours, very cheap air tickets, and you can visit the heart of the country, a very, very Georgian region, I mean Emirati, with a absolutely amazing white varieties. Tsitska, Tsolikorian, Kanahuna. If Kakheti is our, I don't know, Bordeaux, Imereti is, I can say that it's our Burgundy, and especially with the white wines. About the enological styles and techniques, I will explain a little bit later. About the reds, Otshanuri Sapere, Aladasturi, Zelshavi, very, very nice red wines with a very deep color. And, sometimes in Georgia, we call red wine the black wine. In other countries also. But if you want to try the real black wine, please try Otshanuri Sapere. And 2 appellations, Sviri and Opcha. Here are the map of the Imereti with 2 appellations. This is the smallest wine region, but one of the most important. And this is a northern part of the West Georgia, by the way, not very far from Kutaisi. So from Kutaisi airport, it's just maybe maximum 1 hour driving. Amazing great varieties, reds, Alexandrouli, Mujuretuli, Usakhelauli, and Orgeluli, Ojaleshi. But of course, we have more than 40 different varieties only in this small region. And I can write all of them, unfortunately. And a white is Tetra. Tetra has a different subversions like Rajuli Tetra, Mandarias Tetra, Tulgis Tetra, Tsvedianis, many, many different, and they are really very different. And so Likauri, and somewhere also the Tsitska. Most important appellations, Hvanchkara, Tuishi. Hvanchkara is a semi-sweet wine, Tuishi. Also, Okureshi Usakhelauri. Usakhelauri is one of the maybe best places and one of the best grape varieties. I mean, Usakhelauri is a grape variety itself. And yes, very small Raja Lechhumi with these 3 appellations. Ambrolauri has an airport, by the way, very small, this local airline, but still. And Black Sea Zone. Black Sea Zone is big, and it includes 4 historical regions, Abkhazeti, first of all, Samegrelo, Guria, Achara, and we have here only 1 appellation, Salkhina Sojel. It's a very wet climate, very, very, very humid, and but still it has a very nice wine. And what is very important, that if you want to find the wild vines, and you can say prehistorical vines, you have to go here, because you know that the vine itself, the shape of the vine is like a lion's, and these vine lion, they goes around the tree, and sometimes 10 meters, 15 meters. So this tradition we keep in these regions. And nowadays, in some families, you can find, we call it Kriki Nawazi, the grape varieties, which are formed like in prehistorical times. By the way, one of the most important film about the wine history, which made by Hugh Johnson, he founded this type of grapes, and he was so happy. And yes, it's part of our history. And Georgia, why Georgia is interesting? Of course, we have so many wine countries in the world, and so developed, and so different varieties of the grape and wines, etc. But the real value of Georgia is that we are very close with the beginning of the wine, and we are very close with this earth concept of the wine. Because can you imagine that in this region, people made nowadays wines, not all of them, but some of them, from the grapes which they pick from these lions nowadays. And from them, it's not just a trend. And and by the way, these new trendy things like natural wines, the low intervention sulfites, etc. It's a very nice and very trendy everywhere. But for Georgian people, it's not a trend. It's just a usual, casual, everyday thing. And farmers in the villages in Georgia, they don't know these words, like a natural wine, etc., because all of them produce wine in natural way. They don't use sulfites and nothing, absolutely. And they don't know that it's a marketing, some marketing, I don't know, diamond today. No, last 8,000 years, they produce the natural wine, and they don't care about the marketing and trends, etc. This is the value of this country. Okay, and the most important region of the Black Sea zone, of course, is Samegrelo, because we have this appellation. But of course, please, my Abkhazian and Ajarian and Gurian brothers, please, of course, your regions are super important also. But only one appellation we have in Black Sea zone, because I'm underlining this one. So 525, as I said before, endemic varieties of grape. And this is too much for such a small country, believe me. And Qvevri. What is a Qvevri? I'm going to speak about this a little bit more now. Qvevri, first of all, this traditional Georgian Qvevri winemaking method was recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity, because of course, you can find everywhere amphoras, tiniachas, tolias, everywhere. And the ceramic vessels, of course, all wine cultures in the ancient times, and not only ancient times, they use ceramic vessels. Of course, yes, but Georgia is a country which keep this tradition everywhere, everywhere. I have to repeat that for us, it's not just a trend. It's not a marketing. You can find Qvevris and different subversions of Qvevris in even Georgian household in all regions today, nowadays also. And most of them are used by people nowadays also. And on most of them, Georgian modern farmers, they make a wine from their self. So this is a value that Georgians keep this tradition, make wine in archaic way, if you want, prehistoric way, nowadays also. Of course, we can call it amber, orange, and then different names. And the orange wine now is a very popular in the world. Amber wine is official term in the law, Georgian law, about the vine and wine. And historically, as I explained before, the skin contact of white wine, not only white, the red also, but especially the white wine. And when we are speaking about the Qvevri wine, mostly we mean the white grapes with the skin content and very long maturation. I will explain a little bit later. And because of it had a very deep color, very masculine, and with tannins, white with the tannins is a little bit unusual, and very complex wines. Sometimes, by the way, sommeliers in the blind tasting with a black glass, they can not recognize that it's white or red. example, because really the enological way is like a red wine, but with white grapes. But usually in Georgia, we don't use the word orange wine. And very, very rarely we use amber wine, but we use a Qvevri wine. I mean, in the farm, I mean, the households in the villages, etc. For example, my staff who work in my winery in Kakheti, they don't use the word orange wine, etc. They call it just a Qvevri wine. So, Qvevri and Churi. What is a Churi? Qvevri, of course, as I mentioned before, this is a clay vessel, and I think that people, my listenings, they are professionals mostly, and you know that Qvevri is a prehistorical clay vessel, and we put it buried under the ground totally, and we make the white. We make the wine. I mean the white grapes now, white wine. We call it white wine, by the way. In Georgia, in the villages, or the Qvevri, amber, or orange wine, usually the people called white wine. For them, this is a white Kakhetian wine. In the eastern part of Georgia, in the Kakheti, they call it white Kakhetian wine. In the western part of Georgia, they call it Churi. Churi is absolutely the same as a Qvevri, and I explain it later. And this is a more light because in the Churi, we use less skins. So what is the difference? In the left side, you can see the before fermentation, beginning of fermentation, and in the right side, you can see the finish of the fermentation and the white grapes, of course. In the beginning of, sometimes we use a steam, and sometimes we steam the wine, the grapes, sorry. And you can see that in the beginning of fermentation, skins, of course, they are on the top. And during the fermentation, of course, this skins goes down, and we call it the natural filtration. And of course, nobody uses filtration in the households. And of course, now I'm speaking about the archaic way of the Qvevri wine production, amber wine production. Of course, we have a classical Qvevri or amber wine production, which are made by oenologists, by winemakers, and they use normally they use sometimes the yeast can be also, and the sulfites, of course, sometimes, but in the archaic way, in the villages, and mostly in the natural wine producers, the small winemakers, they don't use the yeast, they don't use sulfites, and as a very, very previous time, they don't use rootstocks also. This is super important. And imagine the no rootstocks, no yeast, no sulfur, no filtration, just the juice from the gut, you know. And this way of production, I have to repeat, it's not the trendy marketing some way for Georgian farmers. It's just a normal everyday wine. So in the beginning of the Qvevri style, sorry, excuse me, in the beginning of the Qvevri style, sorry, excuse me for this, the skins are on the top after they goes down. And what is the difference? Excuse me, the screen is still works. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, good. And sorry. And after, of course, and this is the natural filtration. But what is the difference with the Qvevri and Churi? Churi, the name of the Qvevri is the western part of Georgia. First of all, the shape is different because Churis are a little bit less. And second, the difference between the Qvevri and Churi, between the Eastern Kakhetian white wines and Western Emiratian or Rajian and other Western regional wines from the Churi. The most important difference, of course, first of all, the grape varieties, and I mentioned before, and also the amount of the skins during the fermentation and after post-fermentation maceration. In Kakheti, people farmers, winemakers use 100%, usually 100% skins during the fermentation and after a couple of months maturation. And usually on the spring, they open Qvevri first time, really. And they found the absolutely clean with natural filtration, a very deep color, heavy a little bit, good tannins, great structure and complex Kakhetian white Qvevri wines. In the western part of Georgia, they use from 5 till sometimes 25% of the skins, of course, the different varieties of grape. And western Emiratian or another western regional Georgian wines, they are more light, more delicate. I cannot say more aromatic, of course, but with possibility to feel more maybe aromas. Because of, first of all, great varieties, Tsitska, Tsolikouri, Krahun, and others. And they are more light, more gastronomic, maybe. And what is very interesting that and maybe we had not the French kings in Georgia. And you know that the French kings were responsible sometimes for the developing wine and gastronomy in France. But His Excellence Georgian farmer, during the ages or 1,000 years, they discovered absolutely the organic wine and food pairings in my country. And what is it? The eastern part of Georgia, where people in Qvevris use 100% of skin and sometimes steam during the fermentation and after a long maturation. And they get a deep color and very masculine wines and heavy and complex. The gastronomic in the eastern part of Georgia also is a little bit more heavy. It's about the meat, fatty, and heavy food, you know. What is interesting that music, architecture, and sometimes the character of the people, I'm a little bit kidding, of course, but also is more heavy, you know. And this pairing with this wine, food, and local mentality is amazing, and is very organic, you know. In the western part of Georgia, where farmers or winemakers use the less skins and the wines are more delicate, more light, like a classical white wines, like in Burgundy, etc. But please keep in mind that we don't use usually after the Qvevri the barriques, I mean oaks, etc. Of course, some winemakers has experiments, but usually no. And food is also very light, more vegetables, more walnuts, maximum chicken, and no so much meat, you know. And music is a very smooth, more light architecture and humor, such organic with the wine and food. And sometimes, of course, I'm kidding. It's not a scientific, you know, discovering, but sometimes I'm kidding that yes, everything. So skin is matter, you know, because of skin, because of wine is so different in these regions. Maybe all these traditions is related with the wine. So now this is a difference, or enological difference between between the Churi and Qvevri. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And about just the key wine styles. Okay, we should do a little bit of shallow. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, sure. Okay, so okay, it doesn't matter. So about the key wine styles, we have, of course, as I mentioned before, the Georgians we drink the dry wines, dry white, dry red, and but also, and we have a great populations in great group of grape varieties. By the way, in the beginning of the 19th century, Georgia was eaten by Russian Empire, and this big empire discovered that they have a so big and nice wine region, and they start to invite the foreigners, foreigner winemakers, etc., to Georgia, because at that time our oenological style, oenological way was only the Qvevri or Churi wine production, no barriques, and they invite. And these foreigners, first of all, they tried to maybe make experiments with the international grape variety with a familiar they were. But all of them decide that no, the Georgian, especially Kakheti, they don't need, Georgians don't need the international variety. Of course, we have a little bit Cabernet Sauvignon, we have a little bit Pinot Noir, and some Chardonnay, and a little bit Aligoté and Pinot Blanc, but really very short, very little amount. And during the 19th century, it was a really huge development of the Georgian wine history. And during the 19th century, the Georgian winemaking really grows, and the first appellation was created in the 19th century, and all 20th century we continue to make new appellations, and now we have not, of course, a lot like Burgundy, and especially in Italy, but absolutely enough for Georgia. And we have some key styles. And first of all, of course, they are dry wines and different varieties and different appellations, very different wine, and very organic with local food. Of course, not only red, but especially white. By the way, Georgians were more about the white wines, maybe, but in the mountains especially, and in the cities, by the way, the people, of course, like also the red wines, semi-sweet wines, and we have a really very good results in the semi-sweet wines. And it's not maybe the big part of tradition, but somewhere very small amount of red or white semi-sweet wines are loved by Georgians. And chacha. Chacha is like a grappa, like a mahalo. So chacha is a traditional Georgian distillate. And by the way, sometimes chacha was used like aperitif somewhere in some regions. And this is a big part of our culture. Chacha made from the skins. Sometimes it can made from the wine, by the way. And this is a big part of our culture. Also, we have also Georgian wine, Georgian brandies. Also, the big amount of Georgian brandy were produced during the Soviet time and nowadays also. And yeah, I have to. Yeah, thank you. I have to also note about the natural winemaking movement. This is a very important thing because Georgia today is very well known with the natural winemaking movement because, as I mentioned before, it's a very natural for us. And all Georgian farmers, they produce wine this way. And some smart people during the last maybe 20 years, they realized that to offer to the big wine world about our real tradition of these natural wines, this will be the success. And yes, nowadays, Georgia, I think, is the founding father of this great natural wine movement with this Qvevri, Churi, and with also this with oenological styles, different oenological styles. And it means, of course, minimal sulfites or zero sulfites also it's a way very risky, very dangerous, very difficult, but sometimes if it's happened, it can be something absolutely outstanding. And a low iteration everywhere. I mean that not only the wine wine, but also in the vineyard, first of all. And the Georgian influences are really very high in this movement around the world. And you can find in Georgia the really great natural wine producers, very well known everywhere around the world. And next slide, please. It's okay. So sorry for this little technical problem. And thank you very much for attention. Yes, we have this mix of very traditional, very deep, very archaic, and modern techniques. We have also the modern and big wineries. And now Georgia export of Georgian wines is more than 100 million bottles. And most of them, 2/3 is, we call it the post-Soviet countries. But last 20-25 years, we have a very great tendency of the small family wineries, and they really have a very good success. And I think it's yes. So thank you very much, and maybe questions.
Hi, Shalva. Thank you so much. That was so interesting. We actually do have a number of questions that have come through. We've got 10 minutes, so let's try and get through as many as we can. The first off is from Andrea, who has got two questions. What are the distinguishing characteristics of Georgian wines that make them attractive and renowned worldwide? And what needs to be done for Georgian wines to join the map of the world's most famous wines, in your opinion?
Oh, very good question. And we need another 1 hour for this topic. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for this question. First, two things. For me personally, it's personal opinion. It's not the truth, I don't believe that in Vino Veritas. I don't believe. I'm kidding, of course, because I don't believe for the wine gurus who knows everything. Of course, no. Two most important things. What can be interesting for the international markets? First of all, is a Qvevri. Qvevri with the different subversions like a Churi, Emiratian thing, like a Lagvini, Negrelian thing, like a Vibari, Lechumian thing. It's a Qvevri white, first of all, and two different substyles of Qvevri. It's a Kakhetian eastern part with a 100% of skin and with heavy white wines. Who likes this style? And it's very archaic. And if you like, if you want to find in the wine not just if you are expecting the modern taste of the white wine, it's not about the Qvevri. It's more about the Churi, because Emiratian wines with a less skin are very delicate, and sometimes you can compare with the great Burgundian wine, by the way, and you cannot recognize the Qvevri style in Churi wines because they are very light and very delicate because of less amount of the skin. So first of all is a white Qvevri and Churi, and second, of course, Saperavi. Saperavi is our king of our grape varieties. But please don't forget that we have another 524 grape varieties. But Saperavi is like a Malbec for Argentina, but Malbec is not Argentinian. So Saperavi is like our Cabernet Sauvignon, like from Bordeaux. And we have a different substyles of Saperavi in the different appellations. But not only Qvevri and not only Saperavi. We have many other things, but they are in the avant-garde. They are, I don't know, in the first wave of recognition of Georgian wines. And I think that for the more recognition, we need to support and keep going with the natural winemaking, first of all, because we really made this niche in the world, I mean the country. And I don't know, around 100 great enthusiasts. They started, and my family was one of them. I made my own wine in 1998 without sulfur, without yeast, without nothing, with rare and rarest grape varieties from the western part of Georgia, Churi wines. And yes, this one. And of course, to try to make a really fine wines, not because of history only, not because of Qvevri only, but really the fine taste. Sorry for a long answer.
Thank you, Shalva. The next question is from Fumio, who asks a little about what Georgian people like to drink in terms of their consumption. Is it only Georgian wines, or do they enjoy drinking wine from other regions?
Yes, we're a little bit wine chauvinists, like many people. And yes, I think 99.99% of wines consumption in Georgia are Georgian wines, and around 75% we drink more white wines, white classicals. I mean, without skin contact. Yes, it's very popular, of course, in Georgia, and of course the Kakhetian style Qvevri wines with 100% of skin, and Churi wines. These three different white styles. And if red, only the dry, of course. And I have to repeat, we drink only dry wines, not semi-sweet or sweet, etc. But of course, sometimes some people, of course, they drink it.
Thank you. And if we've got a lot of actually quite technical winemaking questions here, which I wonder actually it might be better to ask you if some of the attendees joining or watching later on are interested to learn more about Georgian wine and some of the more specialised techniques in the winemaking. What resources would you recommend for them to access?
You know, we have the new program, Georgian Wine Scholar, and during the nearest 3 months, we will have a nice resource about this education. It will be like a French wine scholar, Italian wine scholar, you know, of course, these programs. And I can provide our email of our school, and please stay in touch. And as this resource will be ready, and this program, of course, we will let you know. Official resource is the governmental resource of National Wine Agency, and all technical or historical or legislation, everything is complete in National Wine Agency of Georgia website.
Fantastic, thank you. I know I, for one, will be looking to brush up my knowledge even more so after your session today. Just having a quick look through the questions. You've touched on the Wine Scholar Guild. Do you know if that will be available to study online? We've obviously got people joining from a lot of different locations. So will that be available online? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Georgian Wine Scholar will have different levels. And first level, I can't say the name of these levels yet, a little bit secret. And the first level will be online, of course. The second level will be the hybrid, online and exam, like in WSET, a little bit. Yes, and you have to visit to pass exam here. Yeah, but first level will be online for 100%.
Fantastic, thank you. We're just about coming to the end of the session. So do you think we have time for one? Yeah, one more question.
Yes, please. Some Spain. Okay, in Spain, you can find Georgian wines at a very nice restaurant in Madrid. Nunuca, super, very nice restaurant, very good selection. But not only this restaurant, of course, but I remember this restaurant, the very good memory because of Madrid Fusion. You know, this gastronomic great event, Madrid Fusion, and many countries, you know, and nowadays you can find Georgian wines in many restaurants around the world, and especially in the Europe and especially in the Great Britain also.
And do you have a particular favorite Georgian wine and food pairing?
Oh, so many.
That's the last question.
Is it lunchtime in London?
It is. Can you tell?
For me personally, because originally I'm from the western part of Georgia, and of course I like both styles, Kakheti and heavy and light Emiratian style, so Qvevri and Churi. But for me, the Tsitska, nice to pronounce also, Tsitska wine from Churi, and Satsivi. Satsivi is turkey with walnut sauce, and together with Churi Tsitska, it's amazing. By the way, in London, also we can find the different restaurants, and my very good friend, maybe you know her, Makwa Bashidze, she has a great place. It calls it 80/20, I think I'm correct. And you can find a very good collection of Georgian wines and Georgian food also. And ask her about this. I don't know. I think she has that CV. She's very smart.
Well, that's my evening plan sorted. Thank you, Shalva. We're just coming to the end of the session, so thank you, Shalva, so much for your knowledge and your time today, and thank you everybody for watching. The feedback poll should have popped up on your screen already, and to remind you that the recording of the session will be emailed to everybody, as well as being available to watch on the WSET Events Hub YouTube account. You can also catch up on our previous events. And we look forward to welcoming you on our next webinar. And thank you again, Shalva.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Joanne. And thank you to the WSET. We're very proud to be your partner in Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And see you in Georgia. Visit us. Thank you.